All right, good Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for hopping on NCSA Live. I'm David Kamisek, here from a next college student athlete to educate and hopefully entertain you guys a little bit here regarding the recruiting process. So we appreciate you hopping on, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever social media platform you're on. We're going to spend the next half hour or so giving some good information about the recruiting process to hopefully make sure your family is in the right path here for your student athlete. As we always do, we're going to encourage as many questions as we can. We want this to be very interactive. So if you have any questions about the specific topic that we're going to start off talking about or anything in the recruiting process, certainly jot it down there below, and we'll get to as many questions as we can here over the next half hour. Today, though, we're really going to break down the differences between the NCAA divisions. We're going to kind of dive in deeper in terms of Division I versus Division II versus Division III versus Ivy Leagues, really help you guys understand what each division level really includes, what they mean, and hopefully help give you guys some guidance here in terms of determining which division level is right for you or for your student athlete. So I'm joined by two great individuals on our NCSA team. We've got Philip Wells there in the middle, one of our recruiting managers, and JC Spate, one of our senior recruiting coordinators. Gentlemen and lady, thank you for hopping on today. How you guys doing?
Awesome, David. Excited to be here, actually. A lot of important things to cover with the good people today as far as the NCAA divisions go. A lot of great information there, and couldn't be more excited to kind of pass along that information to the people. What about yourself, JC?
Yeah, I'm excited to be here and excited to just dive into everything with you guys.
Cool. We've got some good backgrounds here. Philip was a higher student athlete in terms of the division level he played at a FCS football program. JC played at a junior college and then transferred to an NAI program. Her twin sister played at a Division III school. So we've got some different perspectives here that I think will be helpful for you guys as well. But first and foremost, just breaking down really what the division levels are and the differences between Division I, Division II, and Division III. Simply put, it's based on the athletic level. The Division I programs are going to be the most competitive, the highest level of play. Then it's going to go down in Division II, down to Division III. So really the divisions are in place based on the athletic portion of what the student athletes in the programs entail. Philip, we talked about this. You played at an FCS program at the University of South Dakota. Sometimes the misconception for families is that Division I schools are more so athletic or academic than athletic, but you have that experience. Walk us through kind of your experience as a higher division level athlete.
Absolutely. So, David, just like you mentioned, I played at an FCS school, University of South Dakota, a Division I program. And first off, to tackle that misconception, again, you hear Division I, and typically a lot of individuals think that anything below a Division I school is actually taking a step back or not so much a good program. Not the case. Okay, not the case. Division I does mean the highest level of competition, usually across all measures. And when it comes to my personal experience, it was just that. You know, when it comes to a Division I program, you look at FCS programs or even those that are a little bit above that category. Those programs, it's a full-time job. You know, while academics are always going to be your primary focus in any division level, as far as a Division I school goes, it's always a turning clock. Okay, always a turning clock. If you're not in school, guess what? You're in study sessions. If you're not in study sessions, guess what? It's practices 2 to 3 times a day. It's workouts, and everything is going to be centered around your classwork. Okay, so while again everything is always academically driven, no matter what the division level is, my personal experience at a Division I program, it does pose as a little bit of more of a taxing approach when it comes to Division I schools, because while maintaining the academic spectrum, athletics are right there as well. You're competing for a competitive roster. You're competing against the top individuals, the top competitive levels in the country. So within that, it can be pretty taxing. It operates as a full-time job, and between grades and maintaining that level of play at a Division I program, it's not a whole lot of free time.
Yeah,
full-time jobs, no such thing. Go ahead, David.
The time management is essential at that level. And JC, we were talking a little bit about this earlier today, but you being a junior college athlete, an NAI athlete, your sister even at a Division III school, you were able to juggle a little bit more. Walk us through, I guess, your experience and obviously the experience that your sister had as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the funny thing is with me is my junior college preseason was a lot harder. and a little bit more rigorous than when I was at my NAIA school. I had 2 weeks of 2-a-days, and when I had transferred to my NAIA program, I was like, oh my God, this is a breeze. But I mean, with D3 NAIA, you are a little bit more flexible when it comes to just your time. I was able to have a job. I was able to, have fun with, just being in different clubs, my sister as well. And like with my team alone, when I had transferred to the NAIA, we had nursing majors. We were able to kind of be able to like work around their schedule with their clinicals. We were flexible with like changing our time just to make them be there at practice. And I know my twin sister, she's a teacher. She would run from like her teacher sessions and have to just jump right into warm-ups and, be expected to play within 20 minutes. So it is a lot more flexible when it comes to your time, and you're able to definitely manage, more than one thing when going to school and again, being able to play.
And you actually had a unique experience where you started out as a soccer player, and then you actually ended up playing a second sport that you had never played before, which you can do maybe at a lower level. But Philip, I'm guessing you weren't trying to juggle basketball and football. So Casey, walk us through that as well. Walk us through that experience. That's pretty unique for you.
Yeah, so I was in off season, and we were just doing like spring workouts, so nothing like too crazy. But our lacrosse team was going to nationals, and we had sectionals that were coming up. And we had one of the soccer players that was actually already on the lacrosse team at that point. And they came to our team and was like, hey, who can hold a stick and who can run? And I was like, I'm your girl. I'm your girl. And I like played lacrosse like in high school, maybe a little bit with catching in the backyard, but I never had ever been physically on a field before, like with a face mask, like mouth guard and everything. But I was able to actually play in our sectional tournament and even go on to nationals, which was a super fun experience. So it was awesome.
Yeah. So again, that's something that at a lower level school, you have more flexibility, you have more ability to do. So certainly, again, based on the student athlete, based on what you're looking for, we talk to a lot of athletes that would love to play 2 sports and they can't really make up their mind. So again, if that's something that you're targeting as a student athlete or as a family, explore those smaller school, the Division IIIs, the NAIs, the junior colleges. Certainly could give you the opportunity to do so. Philip, part of Division I is also the Ivy League schools, the high academic schools. They present a little bit of a unique aspect to Division I. For Division I, Division II, there are scholarships available for athletics across the board, every sport. The Ivy Leagues do not offer athletic scholarships. There are also no athletic scholarships given in any sport at the Division III level. But Philip, the higher academic schools and the Ivy League systems of Division I just add a little bit twist into the recruiting process.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a twist, because when we look at Ivy League schools, they're almost a replica of what your Division I schools are, except for the scholarship component. And when it comes down to your Ivy League schools, when it comes to scholarships, they mirror your Division III schools. Okay, obviously your Ivy League schools, they operate and they compete with your Division I schools. But while their competitive athletics are super high, their academics are the highest. Okay, they have the highest standard. And within that regard, these are big time programs. Tuition can typically be pretty high. So financial aid is a big area where a lot of families take advantage of. It is need-based. But when it comes to your Ivy League schools, because they're so competitive and have such a high academic selectivity, there are your programs where certain student athletes approach those because they do have a high level of competition. They are looking to compete with the best in the country, but they also don't want to sacrifice anything potentially when it comes to the grades. These are also your student athletes who have your 3.8 GPAs and up, your 4.0s and up, and maybe don't want to look at more of a smaller school like a Division III, where academics are still high, but again, academics or athletics take maybe a little bit of a backseat in that regard.
Yeah, so Ivy's talking about Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Columbia, Brown, Dartmouth, some of those big schools. But again, there are some really great academic programs at the Division III level as well. When you talk about WashU in St. Louis, Emory, MIT, NYU. Again, a lot of great academic programs at the Division III level as well. And JC, I think it's important to recognize that in terms of the NCAA and the opportunities that are out there, most of them are going to come at the not Division I level. Majority of opportunities out there are going to be at the D2, D3, NAIA, and junior college level.
Yeah. I mean, when I was coming out of high school, honestly, I thought I was going to go to the Division III like my twin sister. And then, come my senior year when I went on the visit again, I told my mom, this is not me. This is not what I want to do. And, at that point, my mom literally looks at me in the face and goes, what's your options then? And I had no options. I luckily reached out to the junior college that my cousin went to, and I scheduled a visit as soon as possible, and he offered me right on the spot, and it was a good fit. I didn't realize how intense it was going to be, and that's honestly really what I needed. But it helped me generate more opportunities later on through my college process than I did in high school. So that, honestly really helped me too.
Yeah, because again, you ultimately went through the recruiting process twice then, once from high school to junior college, then once from junior college to the four-year school that you ended up. So certainly is a unique situation there as well. And I think, Philip, for those that are targeting a Division I school, the Division I's just recruit a little bit earlier, right? The Division I schools are identifying kids, evaluating kids sometimes as early as 8th grade freshman year. But if your goal is a Division I program, Philip, you got to start this process and really get on the ball early. If you're a junior or senior right now and you're just starting the process and your goal is D1, it's going to be more difficult to see that come to fruition. Again, for Division I, you've got to really start this process early, knowing how, again, early these coaches are identifying kids.
Absolutely. And that's a huge point. When you look at the most competitive schools in the country, of course, they want a leg up on other programs. They want first dibs, per se, at those best recruits. And that starts early. Typically your Division I timeline for a recruit, David, just like you mentioned, 8th grade freshman year, typically is when those college coaches are taking a look. They're figuring out what their prospect lists look like. So as far as an 8th grader or freshman, that's not time to, pick the exact division school you're looking at. But if Division I is a goal, you better know at that point that it is a goal, and you better know a little bit of what you need to do at that early point in the process. Whether it be just maybe exploring some of the Division I schools, maybe that be, filling out a couple recruiting questionnaires. But you need to be conscious that, hey, Division I schools, they're looking now. If I'm an 8th grader or a freshman, they're the programs that look way ahead of time. Your Division I schools are going to be the most aggressive earliest. Other programs, they still are aggressive in different timelines, but Division I programs, they like to get first dibs on things because they're most competitive.
Yeah, when you look at the different sports, depending on the sport, we see 2024s that are already verbally committed. So kids that are freshmen in high school are already weighing offers. So that process does start extremely early. I think it's important as well, JC, to touch on it. I went to a Division I school. I sat in auditoriums with hundreds of other kids in my classrooms where, again, at a Division III school, a smaller school, the classroom size is going to be a little bit different as well. So for student athletes that maybe need more focus on the educational aspect, having that Division III school, the Division II schools that are typically, smaller schools compared to the Division I programs, that can be really academically beneficial for them.
Yeah, 100%. The ratios that you're looking at when you're talking to the auditorium, is like hundreds to 1. And when you're looking at, D3, NAIA, it's more of like 30 to 1, so more of like that high school feel, more of that one-on-one with your teacher, especially if you may need to cover something a little bit more in depth, or if you need them to be more available to, again, really cover, your questions in regards to assignments or capstone projects that, are 50% of your grade. So yeah, I really liked that concept, and that's really the best way that I learn. So that was something really huge that I was looking for when I was going through the process.
So you're not jealous that you weren't sitting in Western civilization with me as a freshman with hundreds of other people, is what you're saying.
Absolutely no.
Yeah. So again, it all depends really on the family, the student athlete, what your goals are, what your needs are. Again, I think the common kind of feel that we get in talking to a lot of families is, a lot of families want to go D1. That's what they see on TV. They see the Alabama footballs, the Duke basketballs of the world, and that's the dream, that's the goal, Philip. But again, for you found a great FCS program, still played at a high level. You took the games as seriously as I'm sure JC did when she was playing. But again, scholarship can play an important part in this as well. We know the Division I programs, Philip, have more money available. Division IIs, it goes down. Division IIIs, again, no athletic money available, but there is still opportunities when you come to grants and financial aid and academic money that families can take advantage of. And again, that's an important piece of starting this process early, is to try to get as many of your P's and Q's lined up to put yourself in a position to be available for that scholarship money.
Absolutely. And I think, it's been a lot told in that category amongst just, not even so much a scholarship, but just getting assistance with the overall tuition, whether that be a scholarship, whether that be financial aid, whether that be a grant. You want to find your best fit no matter the level, and you want to make sure you're getting all that you apply for. You want to make sure you're getting all that you may deserve. And when it comes to Division I program, again, just like things are super competitive, scholarships are as well. Okay, they go out early. There's an early consideration for them, and those are going to be competitive. But as we trickle down the ladder as far as Division II, Division III schools, yes, scholarships get more scarce, but opportunities to some extent go up. Like JC mentioned a little bit as far as more free time at a Division II or Division III program versus D1. There may be time to get a job. That may be work study, that may be off campus. At a Division I school, you may not have that opportunity. So you may get a little bit more in scholarship funds. But at a Division III school, hey, you may get a little bit assistance financial aid wise, you may get a little bit of grant money. And then, hey, you may have the extra time outside of school and outside of sport to actually get a job on campus, to get a job off campus, to make sure you're doing everything possible to actually get that tuition paid for. Well, regardless of the school, it starts early.
Yeah, and JC, we talk about this all the time. You're on the phone with families pretty much every day, but cast that net wide, right? Especially if you're a younger student athlete, you may not have major decided, you may not know where you want to go or location, but cast the net wide, look at Division IIIs, look at Division IIs, look at Division Is, have options, because the more options you have, the better fit you're ultimately going to find for yourself.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, here at NCSA, we hear it all the time. We've helped student athletes go on to commit to schools they've never heard of, or, commit to schools on the other side of the US. And, there are going to be a lot of factors that a lot of families need to think about. Am I going to play initially as a freshman? Do I want to start and play for 4 years rather than redshirt? Like, that is something that you guys are also going to have to consider. And that's really what I considered too, also when I was going through the process. So that was super helpful to look at smaller schools.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? If you go to a Division I school, you may have to redshirt or sit a year. You're waiting a couple of years to get that starting opportunity. The trend now that you see a ton is these kids transferring out of Division I schools because they go there for a year and they don't play and they're not used to not playing, and they end up transferring to a smaller school anyway. So again, ultimately, the sooner you can start this process, the better off you're going to be. But Philip, for those that are maybe upperclassmen that are a little bit maybe late in the game, what advice would you have in terms of trying to find out the division level? We had a question here, our Ivy Leagues, still trying to land 2021s at this point. Most of the Ivy League schools are kind of done with their 2021 class and maybe looking to fill a couple roster spots. But for a junior, for a senior who's maybe late in the game starting, what advice would you have in terms of trying to figure out, number one, what division level is right for me, right? Skills obviously plays a major part in that. You got to be good enough to play at the Division I level. So what advice would you give to an upperclassman for a family who's junior or senior and maybe just in the beginning stages or getting a little bit of a late jump here on recruiting?
Yeah, first of all, it's okay. Okay, it's okay. Everyone, may get a different start to recruiting. All hope is not lost by any measure, but you do need to realize as a junior or senior just getting ready to start the process that you are behind. Okay, and when it comes to opportunities, colleges out there that may give you a shot, it has to be cast in a wide net mentality. We have to be focused on all division levels at that point. Obviously, if we have the skill for Division I, great. But even with that skill, as a junior or a senior later in the recruiting timeline, we have to also be open to some of those Division II programs. Hey, matter of fact, we need to be also open to, some of those Division III programs. We need to have some flexibility as we're a little bit later in the process, because guess what? Not every Division I program is still going to be looking at a senior or a junior. Same goes for your Ivy League schools. These are your programs at the top of the list as far as competitive wise. They get an early start, and they may not have a roster spot available for a junior or a senior. Okay, so when it comes to any program, as far as getting a late start in the process, regardless of division level, if you're looking to communicate with any of these schools later in the game, the conversation needs to center around, hey, what opportunities potentially do you still have left for my class? And you need to figure out if it's still worth pursuing. If not, let's move on to another school in that division level, or let's move over to a whole nother division level. We have to be open at that point as far as being an upperclassman, because yeah, there may be still a lot of opportunities out there, but they may not be on our initial list.
Yeah, and for families that are trying to figure that out, we have some great technology in our NCSA database. So if you have a recruiting profile built with us for your student athlete, or if you're a student athlete, or you don't, you certainly want to create one. We're gonna show a shot here, but the opportunity within our network to really set your preferences as a student athlete, that's going to help NCSA. It's going to help us kind of guide you in terms of what is a good match for myself as a student athlete. What am I looking for? But then also take into account what college coaches are looking for. So the number you see there on the left is an algorithm that we put together. It's top of the line. It's a lot of people who are a heck of a lot smarter than Philip, JC, and I are putting this stuff together. But we go through an evaluation process. We help guide families through what that determinant is, and based on film, based on grades, based again on what their aspirations are. And then we're able to kind of match that up based on what the college coaches are looking for. And again, give you a list of schools that are potentially a good fit for you, again, as a student athlete, as a family. So if you haven't connected with us, if you don't have your NCSA profile built, get on that. That's going to be a really important piece to again, begin to establish what is the right fit. What should I be pursuing? Because we talk to families too, put tons of work into the recruiting process, identifying the wrong schools or schools that aren't recruiting your position or your grad year. And again, it's a big guessing game. So we try to help eliminate that guessing game and again, make that process as simple as possible for you. JC, one more question for you before I throw it to some questions that we got coming in. Who is the better athlete, you or your sister?
I think we're both pretty good. It just depends on what position you're talking about, because I played center back, Jamie played outside mid. But actually in college, I did transfer to outside mid. So, and she actually changed to center back her senior year. So it's like we almost reversed roles. So kind of funny.
Very political answer for sure, JC. Smart. All right, let's get to some questions here. We got some questions flowing in. First one comes from Angie. Great question. What would be the latest for 2022 grads to be recruited for their sport? Philip, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, so as far as the latest, really just when that school year starts. Don't think about it as what's the latest, but just know it's time to get started. Okay, as far as the 2022 grad, that's a junior. Right now, in terms of graduating, walking across stage, which typically will be the summer of 2022, by August, when that enrollment starts, and it does vary between sport, but by the time August rolls around, and again, that freshman year of college enrollment starts, that's technically going to be the latest. Okay, and again, a lot of those factors are going to depend on the division level. The actual amount of roster spots a certain school has. But typically, even when you look all the way down to junior colleges, something like JC attended, there's not going to be a deadline except for when school starts.
Yeah, no, typically, again, the later you start this, the less opportunity there's going to be. So we get roster openings submitted to us from college coaches. We, yesterday alone, I think, had 400 plus roster openings. A lot of schools are still looking for 2021s. Again, going to be the smaller programs, D3s, NAIs, and junior colleges. But we had coaches sending us roster openings for 2022s at the Division I level. We were even getting 2023s and 2024s yesterday from Division I baseball programs. So again, if you're 2022, now is the time to get going with recruiting if you haven't done anything yet. Again, typically the summer between your sophomore and junior year is really when the floodgates will open up. That's when the direct contact can happen. That's when things get a little bit more serious in the recruiting process. So again, that's the big advantage of starting early. JC, I'm going to turn to this one, to you for this one. It's an NAI question from Leslie. She wants to know, Does NAIA offer athletic scholarships? We said Division III does not. The NAIA, though, they do.
Yeah. So it's a lot like a Division II. You're able to get athletic money and also academic money. So yes, you are allowed to have athletic scholarship from an NAIA program.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's not going to be a full scholarship. A lot of times Division I schools, can be full scholarships. So we call it stacking scholarships. You get some academic money and some athletic money. Also, junior colleges do offer scholarships as well. So again, Division III is really the only division level that does not offer any athletic scholarships, but you can get academic money. Again, that's why the NAIA and junior colleges are great options, because you can get part of school paid for there as well. Question from Tanya. This is specific a little bit to the COVID situation, but Philip, how does a 2022 into D1 if you need them to look so early? There's some things that coaches can be doing early on in the recruiting process, maybe not directly contacting a student athlete, but the importance really here is a student athlete taking the initiative early, since there's really no limitation in terms of what a student athlete can do or when they can reach out to a college coach.
Absolutely. And within that, college coaches love to hear from the student athlete. College coaches, as far as Division I goes, they're going to be restricted. They're going to have to follow a timeline in which, they can reach out. But as far as the student athlete goes, this is that time where, because of COVID and everything going on, they want to hear from you more. Any kind of film you have, send it over. As far as updates in the classroom, new updates doing school from home. College coaches keep them updated on all that kind of stuff. So when the time is there for them to reach out to you, when the floodgates do open up, you can be first on that list, because guess what? As a recruit, as a prospect, you've shown the most engagement. This goes a little bit further than being just a good athlete and having good grades. Show me that you want to attend my school. As a college coach, if you can show me that before I can even maybe reach out to you, because guess what? As a coach, I can see all that interaction, but maybe I can't respond. But at the time that I can, I'm going to keep a log of everything you've sent in. And now it's time, it's showtime. Now when I reach out, it's great news, because I've seen and I've documented everything you've done, every engagement you've had, everything you've sent in to me as a coach. And now I can actually sit on that information and say, hey, not only is this kid a great student, a great athlete, but the engagement has been awesome. It's been through the roof. And when we bring this kid into our program, we can only expect the same thing.
Yeah, and again, COVID has limited what Division I schools are able to do in terms of recruiting. There's a ban in place, if you will, that Division I schools cannot be out recruiting at events. They can't be having student athletes on campus. The NCAA has put that in place until April 15th. That really started at the beginning of COVID. So, the past 11 months right now, Division I schools have not been able to have kids on campus, and they've been unable to go out and recruit at events or games or showcases, whatever the case is. So again, that online communication, the online profile, again, that's why building one on NCSA is so important, is really more prevalent now and more important now than ever before when it comes to the recruiting process. We'll take two more questions here as we're running out of time. JC, I'm going to turn this over to you. One, it's a question from Kirk. Curious about GPA range, for a high school student. What's the recommended GPA in terms of student athletes being eligible for academic money? It can vary by the school, but if you had to kind of put a ballpark, where should student athletes be gunning towards to be in the conversation to be getting academic money?
Yeah, I always tell families to shoot for 3.0 or higher. And, as long as your student athlete can aim, honestly for a 4.0, I mean, the better standing than they will be in when it comes to academic money. So, I mean, typically anywhere from like 3.0 and up is going to give you guys the best options when it comes to
higher the grades are, the better. And again, it can vary by school, right? A school like Northwestern is going to require higher grades than maybe a state school would. So again, knowing the school specifically is going to determine the amount of opportunity available. Same thing at a Division III school, right? We talked about a school like WashU in St. Louis. They're going to require higher academics than maybe another Division III school would to put yourself in that position. But again, 3.0 higher is a good place to start. Same thing with your ACT, your SAT. Higher the test score can be, the more dollars that's going to open up for you. The more doors really that open up for you as well. Philip, last one, we're going to turn to you. A question here specifically about Division I schools. Do D1 schools split scholarships or use academic scholarships for athletes It's similar to other levels. Some sports are going to have only full scholarships available for athletics, but other sports do have the ability to break those up into percentages.
Yeah, it depends very much on the sport. If we take a certain sport like football and we look at your SEC schools, those are going to be full scholarships. Okay, those are going to be full scholarships, and it's not going to be so much of that stack on as far as academics and athletics like we talked about. It's a full scholarship, meaning everything is covered, room, board, tuition, everything is taken care of. Now, in some different divisions and in different sports, you may see more of a stacking period where a certain athlete gets a partial scholarship and they can actually rely on more of the academic money as well to cover the rest of tuition. Okay, I think the major importance there is to communicate with the direct Division I school you're speaking with, get polished up on the rules in that specific sport. Maybe it's not a full equivalency sport where maybe that sport doesn't have full scholarship offers. You want to get yourself knowledgeable on that within your sport, and then check in with that exact program. See if there's going to be a partial scholarship given. That way you can actually seek out more academic funding, or is it full equivalency? Is it a full scholarship, and does it cover everything around? You want to get yourself a knowledge base on that information as it pertains to the sport, as well as what that school may have available.
Yes, like Division I, football, basketball, those are full scholarships. Coaches cannot break those into pieces. Baseball, soccer, softball, most of the other sports, they can maybe give you 50% of an athletic scholarship, a quarter of an academic scholarship. And I think it's important too. The more options you have, the more leverage you can build in that process too. So if you do have a bunch of coaches fighting for you and you're trying to get more money, if you're coming to one coach and saying, hey, this coach is offering me 50%, what can you do? Maybe they up the offer for 60%. So it depends on the money they have available. It's also important to note too that not every school is going to utilize their full amount of scholarship money available, especially now maybe with COVID and some of the budget restrictions that schools have had into place. Kyle Winters, who does Facebook Live with us, tells a story. A friend of his was a Division I softball coach. They had an amount of scholarships available by the NCAA, but the school came back and said, you're only allowed to use this much of the scholarship. So again, it can vary by division level, it can vary by sport, but for the majority of sports, at the majority of division levels, they're going to break those scholarships up and be able to stack those. So awesome. Sorry we didn't get to all the questions. Some great questions, though. We appreciate the feedback. If you have anything specific about your student athlete that we didn't get to, certainly let us know, and we can try to get to as many questions as we can, or reach out to you guys directly at another time. But we're going to do as we always do here to wrap things up. We're going to honor some of our commitments, some student athletes who have recently made their college decision that utilize the NCSA network. So Philip, we'll have you kick us off.
Absolutely. And the best time of the show, obviously, highlighting the athletes that have really kicked butt and it's paid off. We're going to start off with Emma Dusherer. Great action shot from Emma. Obviously committed to Gardner-Webb University. Awesome program. Cool lacrosse shot from her. And I will admit, although I was able to play football at a Division I program, I was never skilled enough to even step foot in the territory of lacrosse. So again, huge shout out to Emma coming forward.
I wish we had an action shot of JC playing lacrosse to show. All right, next up.
Here we go.
With Harmon.
Awesome. We got another one coming up with Harmon, and man, does that guy look lanky. Awesome, awesome job there for Harmon DeVries, committed to Concordia University there out of Ann Arbor. The kid looks like he's, again, catching a great ball there, maybe in the end zone. I believe Harmon was actually about somewhere between 6'6" and 6'8". So certainly a big guy. The look does pass the eyeball test. And another special shout out to Harmon. Obviously committed there for football, but this kid was a two-sport athlete. He also played some baseball. So again, huge action shot for him and a huge shout out.
A lot of jump balls thrown his way, I'm sure. Rounding things up, we got Jamie Rader from originally from Colorado. That's where she played her high school softball, coming in state here to Illinois, to Augustana College, home of our very own Johnny Mago. So shout out to Johnny. Unique story about Jamie. She dealt with a couple of injuries throughout high school and had an ACL injury and persevered through that, stayed on top of her recruiting process. Was able to find a home at Augustana College. So again, for anyone that's going through some challenges, COVID has certainly thrown a wrench in a lot of things recruiting wise. Injuries do as well, but certainly doesn't eliminate opportunities. You just have to be proactive in the recruiting process. And again, the earlier you can this process, the better you can find division level. And if you guys have any questions, let us know. JC can reach out to you. Philip can reach out to you. I can certainly reach out to you, and we can help get you guys on the right path here. But want to thank Philip, want to thank JC for hopping on. Great job, guys and gal. Appreciate the time as always. Next week, Kyle Winters and I are going to be on, and we're going to break down more NAIA junior college levels. So we're going to focus more on the D1, on the NAIAs and junior colleges again today, with talking more about the division levels. We'll have Pat O'Malley, one of our baseball recruiting coaches, who played at a junior college, coached at that level as well, providing some great information as well. But big thanks to Philip, big thanks to JC, thanks for all of you for hopping on. If you guys are going to have any questions, drop us a note, and we'll be happy to reach out to you individually here. But hope everyone has a great rest of their Tuesday and a great rest of their week. Take care.